Hello and welcome to Journey Intelligence Weekly, your briefing on the latest news and trends in the world of AI. I'm Jordan Roberts here with Mark Pizzoli, and we're both with Journey Alliance, proud sponsors of the series. Thank you for joining us. And before we get started, we would like for this to be interactive. So if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments below and we'll incorporate them as we go. Today, we've got some breaking news that we're going to cover with ChatGPT first, but then we're going to go into our use cases, which we've been doing lately. So stick around through the ChatGPT breaking news. And if at any point you're interested in learning how to use AI for yourself in your role at work, you can scan that QR code in the corner, or you can visit journey-alliance.com and it will show you our AI page. So I'm going to pass it to you, Mark, though, and let's talk about what happened with ChatGPT today.
Yeah, so unless you're under a rock, they've been talking about it all week, that it's been hinted, and there was a live stream called Alive 5 stream, right? They replaced the S with the 5. So like everybody knew what it was. It was just about an hour ago, and OpenAI released ChatGPT 5. CEO Sam Altman, so he called it a leap so large that going back to GPT-4 feels miserable. GPT-5 is faster. It reasons out loud. It doesn't hide its reasoning any longer. So you can get a step-by-step mode, and it'll give you kind of all of its reasoning along the way. And there's 3 different sizes, and it auto-selects the size based on the type of query you run, so that it's very responsive. If you ask a simple query, you get a fast response. If you ask something more complex, it takes more time. So it auto-selects. So OpenAI is saying that every user gets it immediately, but I can attest that I do not have it yet.
Yeah.
Jordan doesn't have it yet.
We hope we can show it.
Yeah. So, I mean, they are handling estimated, right? The numbers right now that everyone believes 700 million active users per month. So monthly active users at ChatGPT. So it's going to take some time for it to roll out worldwide, but I would expect that what their goal is probably to have it out. Well, I'll have it by the end of the day or by tomorrow. So you will have limited access though, unless you are on the $200 a month plan. So unless you're on the pro plan, you'll have some limited number of queries you can run against it. So I'm looking forward to putting it through its paces. It's supposed to be a really nice move forward. So we'll see. It is like the strongest coding model yet that OpenAI has released. In the live demo, they took a 2-paragraph brief, right? Super well written, tested ahead of time, I'm sure, probably deterministic as opposed to being letting it be super creative. So for those of you that know a lot about how AI works, basically they turn the temperature down so that they got a very predictable answer, but it turned into a working tutoring website in a matter of minutes. So it wrote an application in a matter of minutes. So there's going to be a lot of people really excited about it. I think one other thing that's really interesting is it comes with 4 preset personalities. You pick the one you want: cynic, robot, listener, or nerd. So I think that's kind of fun. I think that goes back to the fact that a lot of people are not real pleased with the sycophantic ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So now they're giving you an option to like kind of get a different tone, like a tone that works for you, and they're prepackaging them instead of you having to kind of overlay them into your settings. So lots of good things are touting as of now. From my perspective, it's all PR. Like until we see it in action, who knows what it really can do? But it's obviously a big step forward. There was a lot of model launches. I'm going to tell you about them later this week. That's all the other model makers trying to steal their news cycle. But this is a big deal, and people wait for it for a long time. And I'm sure that OpenAI made sure they were ready. They did seem to beta test them last week, and they got really the benchmarks were very strong, and so we should see improvement. Just like I continue to tell people, every day use AI. That's the worst it's ever going to be. Today's one of those days where it just got a whole lot better in a matter of a day, right? Like, and this is the worst it's going to be, because next month someone's going to ship something better, right? So we continue to see improvements in the space. I will say though, I don't think the improvements are quite as significant as they were a year ago, right? Like now the improvements are slowing a bit from the performance improvements and the quality improvements. They're slowing, and they're not as significant. So the market is starting to, I think, stabilize a bit. Like there's just, it's a lot harder to find improvements at this point based on the current technology. Somebody might discover a new way of building a neural network or an AI engine, the technology at the core, and you might see a big leap forward. But so far as the way they're currently doing it, I think we're starting to run up against the limits of what's possible. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I know we wanted to lead with that. It's breaking news. It's literally happened over the last hour. So, but Jordan's got a great demo for us, and I'll let her jump into that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So very recently, ChatGPT also released something called Agent. So Agent Mode. If you want to go into agent mode, you'll open up a chat, you'll hit this, it'll be in the plus button, and you'll click agent mode. It'll offer you suggestions. So I just clicked one of the suggestions. This is a really wordy one, but essentially what this is examining the laws around data transfer. And it took about 30 minutes, as you can see right there. And it gave me this super in-depth look at the laws around the world on these kinds of on data transfer laws. I don't need that information personally, but if I were looking for deep research on anything at all, what I'm going to get back is going to be very in-depth from this mode. So it acted as it took its own desktop. I think I'm saying that right, Mark? It's like it had its own PC and it was able to research all of this. So this is really wordy and it may not look all that impressive. This is a lot of information that would have taken me forever to find if I were really looking this up. And it also gives you the sources here at the bottom. And I think something should happen if I click them, but it's not right now. So we're gonna move on from that. I was hoping this was still working. So I clicked another suggested thing, and this is asking it to look for a bundled flight and hotel package from Chicago to Las Vegas this weekend in September. Prioritize nonstop flights. I think that's where it's running into trouble. It seems there are no nonstop flights. It asked me to confirm the day. I just hit continue and it's working off of that. So you can watch it in real time as it's doing this. Scrolling up to load flights. And I think I am going to correct it and just tell it to not worry about the nonstop. But, oh, there we go. It's found them. It's looking.
It's still looking.
This is what I really love about it, is that it explains its reasoning and what it's doing. And you can see that. So there are a few caveats. One of the suggestions that I clicked before I landed on these two required a login to a website. I think it was asking to create a reading list of the Financial Times. I would have had to have logged into the Financial Times. And that that just won't work. So if it has CAPTCHA, or how is it pronounced correctly? CAPTCHA? Mark knows the tech stuff. CAPTCHA, however that's pronounced, it can't click that for you. I've seen some talk in like online forums where people are saying that they've directed it to ignore or click the CAPTCHA. But Mark, you said that you tried that and it didn't work.
Yeah, so I was running some testing with Agent as well. So a couple to kind of some of the high points. What Agent Mode does is it does give ChatGPT access to a virtual machine, a virtual computer, a virtual desktop, if you will, so that it can save documents, save files, combine them later. It gives it a lot more utility. So from that standpoint, like it's working in the background, and then what it's showing, what Jordan was showing there is that it's showing you the screen, right, and showing you how it's working in the browser and what it's going and doing. So I did try to have it. I had it trying to create a presentation for me, and it got hung up trying to log in to Canva. I had to try to use Canva. It was trying to log into Canva, and I got one of the CAPTCHAs that it's not really CAPTCHA. It's more of a click here to prove you're human. And without getting too technical, the way those work is they analyze the one where you just check one box. It's not the you have to pick the images, none of that stuff. You just have to check a box and it knows you're human. Well, it knows you're human based on how you moved the mouse. So if you move the mouse a certain way, then it knows you're human. Well, robots don't move the mouse; they just click, right? So the way the interface works when it shows you the screen, and even though I move the mouse, the system, the browser on the virtual machine doesn't see you moving the mouse because it doesn't it's just technical way the VM works. And so even though I could check the box, it continued to think I was a robot. So even though I was really kind of a robot proxy, if you will, I tried it 5 or 6 times. I tried to get creative. I tried clicking. I tried a ton of things. Couldn't get past the CAPTCHA. So it's not allowed to pass CAPTCHAs on its own, which is interesting, right? So anytime it gets to a CAPTCHA, it's going to bring it back to the user for them to pass it. And depending on the type of CAPTCHA, that particular one, you don't seem to have a way to get past. So, but I have used Agent Mode. Interestingly, for me, most of the stuff I want to do is research based, and I can do that. I could do that with deep research before. So I haven't really found anything terribly useful on Agent Mode. It's still a bit limited. I did have it put a presentation together. It couldn't do it in Canva, but I did let it like, hey, so go put this together, and it did. It did eventually give me a PowerPoint. So I think there are real uses for this. You just got to have to get good at using it.
Yeah. When you gotta know it's
and that's always the case, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. What else I like about this too is that you have all of these suggestions here, and this kind of helped me understand how I can use it. I do think they're a little maybe ambitious with some of these, like, it could maybe do this cash flow model for NVIDIA, but it might run into an issue where it has to log into something, and that would be a problem.
Oh, I stole your share. I was gonna tee it up in the background. I did not mean to steal Jordan's share there. Hey, this is what happens when you do stuff live and you go off script. Since I mentioned the presentation, I'm gonna jump in. I just wanted to show, like, so deep research cannot do this. Let's be like, deep research could not have created this presentation. You could try it. It would be a train wreck. But Agent Mode built this from scratch. The prompt was go get AI news and build me a presentation, and include an SMB takeaway for each item. And it built this based on things, this was done this week. So it's relevant news, GPT-5 news release, open weight models. I'm going to talk about this in a second as well. So it chose cheesy icons, but I mean, I didn't give it anything. I didn't tell it what to use either. So the prompt for this was literally uh, a couple lines, not a really well developed prompt. This is a great output for a not very well developed prompt from agent mode. So this is actually pretty promising, I would say. So I would explore it, like start to think about how it might work for you. It doesn't really, I don't think you get as much back and forth though. So like with this, I don't, I guess I haven't really tried the back and forth. Hey, can you update it for this? Can you try this now? So I think you have to really, to get an effective output, you need to spend some time not writing a prompt, but really writing a brief, right? What do you really want? I've seen some great work from some other AI content creators around developing prompts, really well developed prompts. You know, thinking like getting to like a place where um, you basically have kind of developed a contract between you and the AI as to what you're actually asking for. I think that would be a good way to approach something like this. Anyway, I apologize, Jordan. I didn't mean to steal your.
No,
But
you're fine.
I think
Yeah, and you're making a good point though about, so like this prompt that it generated itself is very detailed.
yeah,
Um, so I think that's key to getting it right. The one that's still struggling on the finding the flights wasn't very detailed, but yeah, it gives you some options, so you can kind of test what it can and can't do here without having to put much thought behind it, and that'll give you an idea of what you can use it for. But anyway, we'll move on from this and go into the news for this week. So, Mark, there are some other updates with some of the other AI platforms. What's going on with them?
yeah, just kind of improving that OpenAI is really the 800-pound gorilla in the space, right? All the other model makers are dropping models at the same time, trying to kind of steal their news cycle, like I said earlier. So this week we also saw the launch of Claude Opus 4.1. So this is a minor version update, but it people are talking about it and they're saying that it's noticeable, right? So they shipped it on Tuesday, which just 2 days ago, the 5th. I saw a quote. Someone said, "Think of it as Opus 4 on energy drinks." So take an Opus 4, toss in a couple Celsius, and here's what you get. Better, sharper reasoning, tighter code editing. The agent skills are improved, and ability to deal with multi-step tasks with fewer hiccups. So, people that kind of do this a lot, they have like specific test cases they put new models through to see when they get better with them. So I think these are the times when they notice, right? So it's available for Claude Pro, Claude Max, Claude Team. This is the standard Claude models, $15 a month stuff. So you get a lot of access. Opus One has always been limited access for every single user, including their $200 a month users still have a limited amount of Claude, although of Opus One, I should say, Opus 4. They continue to have a limited amount. It's not terribly limited, but it is limited. Opus has one of the largest context windows. You could pass it 200,000 tokens. I don't have a better reference point, so I always use the same reference point. So the Bible is about 750,000 tokens. So you could pass it a quarter of the Bible as a prompt. I mean, think about that. You're passing, and the Bible is not the length of a novel. The Bible is, I mean, right? We're talking about 1,000-page, 2,000-page novel, kind of that equivalent. So, so you can pass it a ridiculous amount of content and context for it to operate on. It also has hybrid reasoning, which is interesting. It's a new concept. It flips between instant answers and step-by-step thinking depending on the prompt. So, so if again you ask it something simple, it's just going to run it. It's just going to go answer it quick. You ask it something that thinks like it needs to be thought through, it's going to go think through it. So I think we're starting to see the models being able to decide when they get to use the extra thinking power. So it's already available in Claude Code. Enterprises that had access to it earlier report dev cycles up to 50% faster. This is, I mean, really, but like they're seeing significant improvements. And then if you're using it on the API, you have additional controls and you can control its thinking budget. meaning how much time should it spend thinking. Interestingly, we haven't talked about this much, but most AI models are plagued by this. The more time they get to think, the answer gets better, 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 right until it doesn't. And then it starts to get worse, worse, worse. So AI models can overthink just like humans can. And overthinking actually degrades performance. So it's all about finding the right amount of thinking budget for each individual prompt. That's the problem. It's never the same prompt to prompt. So, but so that's a big release this week as well. I use both. I have access to both. I use Claude Opus for more technical tasks. Admittedly, it's a monster. It does a really good job. But it can chew through tokens very, very quickly. So the other thing that happened this week is out of OpenAI, they released 2 open source models. They haven't released an open source model since GPT 2.0, which was like way back when they first, when all of us heard of ChatGPT. That was the last time they released an open source model. These are released under the Apache 2.0 license. You can use them for both commercial, and you can redistribute them. I mean, a lot of freedom with the Apache 2 license. You can go get them right now off of Hugging Face, which is where all the model makers that release open source stuff post their models. So what it means that it's open source is that the weights are available. So you can go get the weights. You can download the models with the weights included. You need to know a little bit about how these work, but you can run them on your local computer. And the larger of the two is a significant model. It's probably close to 4.0 capabilities. But the hardware required to run it, I was doing some quick research. The hardware required to run it's probably $25,000. You get unlimited access, unlimited use, but it's $25K. That, if you think about how much we all use AI, realistically, a small business that has maybe 100 users could probably use that, right? So they could deploy that internally and not pay $20 per user per month. We're talking about $2,000 a month for a $25,000 one-time spend. It has a 1-year ROI. Like, that's all day long, right? If you have the technical capabilities, a lot of companies would invest in something like that. So you can see that really being attractive to companies, especially if they don't want their information going into the cloud, leaving their premises, things like that. So this is a pretty big deal that they did this. The smaller one will run on 16 gigabyte GPU hardware. That's a $500 graphics card. Any one of us can install that. It runs like O3 Mini, very usable model, very useful for a ton of tasks. It's got reasoning, right? So a lot of possibilities there. In fact, maybe think about going and getting a new GPU. I haven't bought a GPU in years because I spend all this time on AI and none gaming anymore. So just a perspective wise, the larger one's 120 billion parameter, more of a server class model, and the smaller one's a 20 billion parameter, right? And it's considered a consumer grade model. It will work just fine for a single user. So go get them. If you want to play with them, go grab them. And I think they're going to start releasing more of the GPT-4 stuff into the public because they released GPT-5, right? So they'll hold the new model, they'll hold the new stuff close, and they'll release the previous model publicly constantly. That's going to continue probably happening. So better for all of us.
Yeah, some serious updates there. So kind of switching gears though on AI here. So there's some talk, if you use SEO to gain traction for your business, get attention for your business on Google, LinkedIn, or your websites, however you're using SEO, things are changing. People are searching differently. Some people are using ChatGPT as a Google replacement. They're no longer searching there. Sometimes it's a mix. You've also got Google presenting AI summaries, and people aren't clicking links at all. So this has been dubbed the dawn of the generative engine optimization, so GEO, rather than SEO. So you're crafting content for AI chatbots instead of Google, and you're wanting something that's structure and fact rich. You want to consider the questions that your customers would be asking, and that would be longer tail keywords. How would they be researching this topic? I think the best example that I've seen described is if you're looking up a pair of running shoes In the past, you would have probably Googled top running shoes for whatever terrain you were expecting to be on. Now you might go into, if you search that in ChatGPT or Perplexity, you're going to get something that describes the makeup of the shoe and what makes it better. It's a really in-depth exploration. And so if you think about it in terms of that, it's not just like top 10 running shoes. That's not the kind of thing that's going to perform. It's the more in-depth, fact-based answers rather than I don't want to call them gimmicky, but those 10 best whatever articles were kind of gimmicky. That was how people were gaming SEO. So the game is changing. And if you want to keep up with it, this is actually a really good chance to get ahead. Bigger businesses have invested a lot in SEO, not to say smaller businesses haven't, but their pivot's going to be a little different. So it's a chance for smaller businesses to get ahead and start finding out what your customers are really asking and answering that in your ads, in your LinkedIn content, in your blog posts, your articles, your white papers, whatever you're putting out, really answering those questions in depth. And that will make you stand out on AI.
I think this is really interesting because I did a little bit of reading. I saw this as well in the news. I read a little bit of the backstory and some additional context. What's interesting here is SEO has driven marketers to keyword stuff, right? Like, so they have to mention the keywords for the page a certain number of times, and they have to mention some keywords that are related to that. And they have all these things they need to do to optimize the page for SEO. And when you read it, sometimes you're like, why does this feel clunky? Like you read the copy and you're like, this doesn't feel like, it just feels clunky. You can tell it's not like, you're like, who wrote this? Why would they write it this way? So, and what's interesting is that if that falls out of favor, and let's be honest, we're a long way from that going away completely. But admittedly, Google's search volume has dropped by a noticeable like 4 or 5%. This is not nothing. This is billions of dollars. Like I guarantee you Google's noticed. But we're a long way from people like completely giving up on SEO. But if it starts, how funny is it that we all feel, I think a lot of people are worried that a lot of websites are going to end up with all this AI generated content, and it's going to be what people have started to call kind of AI slop, because it's just all like, it's all AI generated, and it doesn't have a lot of innovation, human innovation, creativity, if you will, in it. But maybe AI might drive the content actually to improve, because that's what will work best for GEO, right? So GEO seems to be the term everyone's using, right? This generative engine optimization. So I don't know. It's interesting to see how it will affect the internet, and we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah. I don't know if we have time to squeeze in another news story. I don't want to cut one short.
Let me just, I'll quick mention 30 seconds and then we're going to wrap because we are at time. I just saw this in the news. It keeps coming up. Everyone's dunking on Apple, right? Like they're behind. They definitely missed this one. They missed it because they're all about on device, and your phone just does not have the horsepower to run an LLM yet, right? But they are they're doing an end-to-end Siri revamp, and they are starting to tout it because they're seeing much better results than they expected. They were talking about it at an internal all hands meeting earlier this month. It's leaked out. We're going to see a much bigger upgrade than we envisioned in Siri, likely in spring, sometime in 2026 is what we're hearing. A lot of people are saying it's looking like the spring release 2026. It'll be iOS 26.x, right? So sometime next year. And their focus is supposedly going to be on personalization on your device, having an LLM on your device, and that it will have really good hooks with the OS so that it can do things with all the Apple apps out of the box. So if you tell it to go do something, it'll basically, it can use all the Apple apps deeply right out of the box. So we'll see what happens. I think this is a big deal. A lot of people are on iPhones, probably at least 60, 70% of our audience is using iPhones. And so So I think Apple needs to overcome this, or they're going to start losing market share pretty quickly. So
Yeah. Well, only 50% of your hosts use Apple products. So
you guess which 50.
you guess. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us here. If you're interested in learning more about AI, or if you missed some of our episodes, I dropped the link to our website. You can learn more about our AI training there, and additionally, you can sign up for our newsletter there that recaps everything that we cover through the month, including some of those demos that we do in ChatGPT, so that you can learn more about that. So check that out, and we'll see you back here next week, 3 p.m. Eastern.
If you're on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. If you're on LinkedIn, follow Jordan and I, follow Jordan Alliance, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.